The world ended, and I got reborn in the middle of a Montana apocalypse. -60 degrees, snow up to your eyeballs, and zombies everywhere. All I wanted to do was find a warm place to lie down and play dead, but I got picked up like a stray puppy by a pair of stone-cold, badass sisters. They didn't know that the scrawny, useless freeloader they'd rescued was actually the king of all zombies. Well, my name is Leo Hayes, and I've been reincarnated. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't staring at the white walls of a hospital or crossing the river Styx. There was just white, a blank, endless expanse of it. Cold was the only sensation. The frigid air snaked its way through the rips in my insulated pants, a million tiny needles digging into my bones. I tried to wiggle a finger and felt like a sardine frozen solid in a block of ice, stiff and utterly undignified. Ping. Host's intense will to survive. I.E. Find a warm place to lie down has been detected. The ultimate slacker system is now active. Newbie mission. Remain completely still for the next hour to receive the initial skill. Zombie whisper. The voice that popped into my head was a welcome jolt. A system? My cheat code had finally arrived? But this mission, lie still, that was my lifelong ambition in my previous life. Was this for real? I used to be a standard corporate drone, a wage slave who literally worked himself to death at his desk. My biggest dream was to quit the rat race and spend my days as a professional couch potato. I guess in death, my dream came true. The starting zone was just a little harsh. -60 on a street in what used to be Frostfall, Montana. I figured a single drop of snot would freeze into an icicle sharp enough to take me out. In the distance, a few inhuman shrieks cut through the whistling wind, making my hair stand on end. I knew what it was. The apocalypse had started. Last time, on day one, I got scratched by some freakishly fast zombie and didn't even make it 3 hours. This time, I needed a new strategy, like finding a safe place to continue lying down. Just as I was about to close my eyes and commit to my slacker ambitions, two figures emerged from the blizzard. One tall, one short, both bundled up in heavy-duty tactical parkas. The taller one held a firefighter's axe, its blade crusted with dark red ice. The shorter one's hands seemed to flicker with orange light, a tiny spark of warmth in this miserable, white world. As I got closer, I realized they were women. Girls, really. The tall one, let's call her an Amazon, pulled down her hood, revealing a face completely devoid of expression, chiseled by the cold. Her eyes swept over me like I was just another frozen rock on the side of the road. The short one, the firecracker, yanked her hood down too. Her face was flushed red, her eyes filled with impatience. Kira, look, another one frozen solid. Let's just go, this place gives me the creeps. The Amazon, Kira, ignored her. She walked over, squatted down, and pressed a gloved hand near my nose to check for breath. Her fingers were ice cold. I could feel the chill right through the tactical fabric. Still breathing, she said. Her voice was as cold as she looked. The firecracker let out a surprise, huh? And leaned in, her face a mask of disgust. He's alive. Kira, we're not taking on dead weight. We've barely got enough food for ourselves. One more mouth is one less meal for us. My heart sank. Hey now, don't be so hasty. I'm a growth stock. Kira stood up and prodded me with the handle of her axe. Can you walk? I blinked to show I was alive, then gave a weak shake of my head. Are you kidding me? If I could walk, why be lying here? What about my system mission? I had to lie down. The firecracker stomped her foot in frustration. See, look at him. He's completely useless. Just leave him here, survival of the fittest. Kira was silent for a moment, clearly weighing her options. I quickly tried to squeeze out a couple of tears, which of course froze instantly on my eyelashes. I summoned all my strength and managed a pathetic mosquito-like whine from my throat. Hungry. That single word was filled with the primal desperation of a wage slave who'd missed lunch, packed with the raw will to live. Something flickered in Kira's eyes. She glanced behind her at the shambling figures getting closer, a few zombies drawn by the sound. She made her decision. Maya, give me a hand. Let's get him to the warehouse. The firecracker, Maya, looked thoroughly annoyed but did as she was told. She and her sister grabbed me by the arms and hauled me out of the snowdrift. For a second, I thought my soul was going to freeze and detach from my body. Kira, why is he so heavy? Maya complained. Duh, this is the weight of my ambition. They half dragged, half carried me forward. Behind us, the zombies followed, relentless. Kira, they're coming. Maya yelled, her voice tight with panic. You take left, I'll take right, Kira said, her tone perfectly level. They dropped me unceremoniously to the side, and I went with it, collapsing back into the snow to continue my mission. Kira swung her fire axe in a clean, powerful arc that whistled through the air before splitting a zombie's skull. She made it look easier than chopping firewood. Meanwhile, Maya rubbed her hands together and launched a ball of fire that hit another zombie square in the chest. It instantly became a screaming torch before collapsing, filling the air with the stench of burnt rot. I watched, utterly impressed. Damn, a 1-2 punch of ice and fire. This was a gravy train with biscuit wheels, and I was hopping on. Ping. Stillness mission complete. Initial skill, Zombie Whisper LV. 1 acquired. Zombie Whisper. You can issue simple commands to low-level zombies within a 10-meter radius, such as forward, stop, or turn. Note, more complex commands have a lower success rate and will consume mental energy. Skill acquired. I had a safety net now. Watching them make short work of the remaining zombies, I let out a few timely, feeble coughs to remind them not to forget about their new prize. After the fight, Maya walked over and kicked my leg. All right, stop playing dead. Get up and walk yourself. I kept my eyes closed, my breath shallow. Kira came over, her brow furrowed. He looks like he has severe frostbite. Without another word, she hoisted me up again. Maya followed behind, fuming and muttering under her breath. Useless. Dead weight. Just wants a free meal. I chuckled to myself. Girl, you can ignore me now, but one day you won't be able to afford me. As long as I can do it while lying down, of course. To their temporary base was an abandoned hardware depot. A fire pit in the center of the concrete floor pushed back some of the brutal cold. They dropped me next to it, and I finally felt like I was rejoining the world of the living. Kira pulled half a bottle of water and a small, dense protein bar from a backpack and handed them to me. I took them and devoured them like a starved animal. Maya sat on the other side of the fire, hugging her knees and poking the embers with a rebar rod, occasionally shooting daggers at me with her eyes. Kira, are we really keeping him? She started again. Kira was inspecting her fire axe, not even looking up. He wouldn't survive out there. But he's obviously a useless waste of space who can't lift a finger to help. Why bring him along? As a good luck charm. Maya's voice rose. I chewed my bar, thinking you're not wrong. Kira finally looked up, glanced at me, then turned back to Maya. He's alive. That means he's lucky. Right now, luck is what we need. I almost choked on my protein bar. Sister, your logic is on another level. Maya just pouted and shut up. The wind rattled the warehouse's big metal door, and the moans of distant zombies were a constant, unnerving soundtrack. After I finished eating, I found a corner, curled into a ball, and prepared to get back to my life's work. New mission issued. For the next 24 hours, maintain energy saver mode. Daily step count must not exceed 100. Mission reward. Zombie Whisper LV. 2. This system was tailor-made for me. In the middle of the night, a loud noise woke me. It was the metal door. Someone was ramming it from the outside, their efforts punctuated by the snarls of a few zombies. Kira and Maya were instantly awake, Kira grabbing her axe and Maya's hands igniting as they stared at the entrance. Kira, I don't think it's just zombies, Maya said, her voice trembling slightly. I know. Kira's gaze was fixed on the small viewport in the door. The ramming grew more intense, and the metal door began to buckle. Suddenly, with a deafening crash, one of the hinges gave way, and several zombies squeezed through the gap. The sisters charged forward. Kira's axe was as deadly as ever, but there were too many zombies, and the two of them were struggling to keep up. I huddled in my corner, pretending to be terrified, but secretly activating Zombie Whisper. My focus locked onto the zombie at the front of the pack. It was wearing the tattered remains of a security guard uniform, and was surprisingly fast. In my mind, I issued a command, trip. The security guard zombie, in mid-sprint, tangled its own feet together and went down in a spectacular faceplant. The two zombies behind it couldn't stop in time, tripped over their fallen comrade, and created a clumsy, 3-zombie pileup. Kira and Maya both froze for a split second. But they wouldn't miss an opportunity like this. Kira lunged, her axe coming down and silencing the top zombie for good. Maya's fireball followed, turning the bottom two into a charred heap. The rest were cleaned up in short order. Maya stood with her hands on her hips, catching her breath and staring at the pile of bodies in confusion. What the hell? Do zombies know how to trip now? Kira was also staring at the security guard's corpse, a flicker of doubt in her eyes. She had no idea that this absurdly convenient coincidence was the work of the guy they'd written off as useless. They just thought they'd gotten lucky. I stayed in my corner, burying my head deeper between my knees and making my shoulders shake for good measure, putting on my best scaredy-cat performance. Maya walked over and nudged me with her boot. Hey, stop shaking. It's over. Her tone was a little softer than before. I looked up. My face a perfect picture of a man who'd just seen his life flash before his eyes. Kira approached and handed me a small piece of chocolate. To calm your nerves, I accepted it, acting stunned by the gesture. Kira, are you really going to treat him like a pet mascot? Maya grumbled from the side. Kira didn't answer. She and Maya just went to the door and jammed a steel pipe against it to brace it shut. I peeled the wrapper off the chocolate and popped it in my mouth. It was so sweet. It seemed the ultimate survival strategy was simple. Find some powerful allies and occasionally demonstrate my value as their mascot. 3 the next day, the food in the warehouse ran out. We have to go out and find supplies, Kira stated, looking at their empty backpacks. Find them where? Every convenience store around here has been picked clean, Maya said, worried. Kira spread out a worn city map and pointed to a spot. Here, the big wholesale club on the west side of town. It's out of the way, but it'll be stocked. The problem is it'll also be crawling with zombies. Then, what about him? Maya jerked her chin in my direction. I've been dozing against a pile of boxes. Hearing my cue, I opened my eyes, my expression a mask of pure innocence. Kira glanced at me. He comes with us. With us. Maya's voice shot up an octave. Kira, we're going on a supply run, not a picnic. Bringing him along will slow us down by half. Leaving him here alone is a death sentence, Kira said, her tone leaving no room for argument. I gave Kira a mental thumbs up. The big sister had a conscience. Maya was so angry she was speechless, finally settling for shooting me a venomous glare. And so, the 100-step wonder was once again dragged out into the cold. The road to the wholesale club was treacherous, littered with abandoned cars and shambling zombies. We stuck to the back alleys, avoiding the larger hordes. Even so, we ran into several small packs. The sisters' teamwork was becoming seamless. One was a close-range physical exorcist, the other a long-range fire mage. They were brutally efficient. As for me, my job was to find a safe spot to squat and occasionally use my zombie whisper to create a few happy accidents for them. For instance, I'd make the fastest zombie suddenly develop a deep fascination with a telephone pole and start gnawing on it. Or, at a critical moment, I'd have one of them slip and take a whole chain of zombies tumbling down an embankment with it. After a few of these incidents, the way Maya looked at me started to change. Hey, she said, panting after a fight. What's your deal? Is there something wrong with you? How come every time you're around, these things act like they've lost their minds? My heart skipped a beat, but on the surface I just looked confused. I don't know. Kira shot me a look too, her eyes sharp. She clearly noticed something was off. Maybe. I just have a comforting presence. I ventured. Maya rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. Finally, we reached the wholesale club. The glass doors were shattered, and the inside was dark and cavernous, with low growls echoing from within. I'll go in and scout, Kira said, tightening her grip on her axe. Kira, I'm coming with you. You stay out here and watch him, Kira ordered, pointing at me. Maya's face fell instantly. Kira slipped into the store alone, leaving me and Maya outside. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. I found a corner to squat in, continuing my energy-saving lifestyle. Maya paced back and forth, clearly agitated. Suddenly, she stopped in front of me. Hey, tell me the truth. Who are you really? I looked up, my face a picture of sincerity. Leo Hayes. Just a regular guy. A regular guy who can survive in negative 60-degree weather. A regular guy who makes zombies act like idiots just by being near them. She obviously wasn't buying it. Maybe. I was born under a lucky star. I was just making stuff up at this point. Just then, a loud crash came from inside the store, followed by a sharp, pained grunt from Kira. Maya's expression changed. Damn it, my sister's in trouble. She started to run in, then hesitated, looking back at me, torn. Go help your sister. I urged her, feigning panic. What about you? I'll hide right here and not move. I promised, patting my chest. Maya gritted her teeth and finally sprinted into the store. The moment she was gone, I shifted into a more comfortable position, leaning back against the wall. The sound of a fierce battle and zombie snarls erupted from inside. I wasn't worried at all, because just a moment ago, I had accidentally kicked an empty soda can. It had skittered across the pavement, making a series of sharp, clattering noises. To a zombie, that sound was a dinner bell. But they wouldn't be going after Kira and Maya, because my command to them was, go to the basement. There's better food down there. I had already sensed another group of survivors hiding in the store's basement, thanks to my upgraded zombie whisper. Judging by the vibes of malice and bloodlust coming from them, they weren't good people. This was just recycling, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. for the sounds of fighting inside the store quickly died down. A few minutes later, Maya emerged, supporting Kira, who had a minor cut on her arm. "Kira, are you okay?" Maya asked, worried. "I'm fine. It's just a scratch." Kira shook her head, but her gaze went past Maya and settled on me, her expression unreadable. "That was weird," Maya said to herself as she bandaged Kira's arm. There were at least a few dozen of them in there. We were getting ready for the fight of our lives, and then they suddenly went crazy and all charged for the basement, completely ignoring us. Kira didn't speak, just kept looking at me. I was starting to feel a little creeped out, so I could only offer up a goofy, innocent smile. When we went in to get stuff, we heard a lot of screaming from the basement, Maya continued. Sounded like there was another group of people down there. "Yeah," Kira replied quietly. She pulled a large duffel bag from her pack and started loading it with goods from the shelves near the entrance. They didn't know that the real danger in the store wasn't the few dozen zombies, but Riker's crew, who had been hiding in the shadows, waiting for them and the zombies to wear each other out so they could swoop in and pick up the scraps. And now, Riker and his friends were probably enjoying some special attention from the undead. I gave myself 100 points for that move. The way Maya looked at me had completely transformed. It was no longer disgust, but a kind of awe, like she was looking at some rare, exotic animal. She sidled up to me and whispered, "Hey, Leo, be honest with me. Did you make a deal with the devil or something? Are you like a reincarnated saint?" I cleared my throat and said, with faux solemnity, "The heavens work in mysterious ways." She actually bought it, nodding seriously and taking a small step away from me, as if afraid to mess with my cosmic karma. We returned with a huge haul. On the way back, Kira didn't say a word, but she would occasionally glance back at me. I knew my good luck charm persona was starting to crumble in her mind. She was beginning to suspect that all this luck might have something to do with me, but she had no proof. And as long as I kept playing dumb and lying low, they'd never guess the truth. Back at the warehouse, Maya was in such a good mood organizing the food that she was actually humming. She handed me a whole beef stick. "Here, a reward." She lifted her chin, trying to look proud. I took it, feeling pretty pleased with myself. See, lying around not only makes you stronger, but people feed you too. Not even the gods have it this good. I leaned against the wall, chewing on my prize and watching Kira. She sat by the fire, cleaning her axe. The blade gleamed in the firelight, reflecting a cold, deadly glint. What was she thinking? Was she replaying the events at the store? Or was she pondering the true identity of her mascot? I couldn't tell, but I knew that from this day forward, their attitude toward me would fundamentally change. I was no longer just a burden in need of protection. In their eyes, I had become a walking, talking, four-leaf clover. It was a weird analogy, but it was true. And it was exactly what I wanted. A perfect cover that allowed me to slack off while ensuring my own safety. Night fell. The sisters were both asleep. I opened my eyes as the system's prompt sounded again in my head. Energy saver mode, mission complete. Reward: Zombie Whisper LV. 2. Zombie Whisper LV. 2. Control radius expanded to 100 meters. Can now issue commands to mid-level zombies. More complex commands, such as patrol and detour, are now possible. I felt the new power course through my mind, and a smile spread across my face. This apocalypse, maybe it wasn't so bad after all. The next few days were surprisingly peaceful. Maya's attitude did a complete 180. She stopped calling me, "Hey you," or "deadweight," and started calling me Leo. Her tone was still a bit sharp, but it was a quantum leap forward. Her new daily routine, aside from training, was trying to figure out how to absorb some of my good luck. She'd pat my head before going out or insist I be nearby when they were scavenging, like I was some kind of human talisman. I was more than happy to play along. My mission was to lie around, and I could do that anywhere. Kira was still a woman of few words, but the coldness in her eyes had thawed. She'd even occasionally ask if I was cold or hungry. One day, we were eating lunch, spam seared to a perfect crisp by Maya's powers, so fragrant it made my head spin, when a loud bang, bang, bang echoed from the warehouse door. The sisters were on their feet in an instant, alert. "Who is it?" Kira called out, her voice low. A weak man's voice answered from outside. "Help! Please help us. We're survivors." Maya peered through the viewport, then turned back to Kira. "It's a few people. They don't look like trouble. They have a kid with them." Kira frowned, not immediately opening the door. In the apocalypse, people were often more dangerous than zombies. I kept chewing my spam, but a thought stirred in my mind. My zombie whisper could now cover 100-meter radius, and I hadn't sensed any living people approaching. It was like these guys had appeared out of thin air. "Tell them to leave," Kira said coldly. "Kira." Maya couldn't believe it. but they have a child. We can't support that many people. The knocking outside grew more frantic, now mixed with a woman's sobs and a child's cries. I sighed, stood up, and walked to the door. Leo, what are you doing? Maya tried to stop me. I ignored her and spoke to the door, my voice just loud enough to be heard. Stop knocking. You're going to draw the dead. This one is full. The sounds outside stopped abruptly. After a few seconds, a chillingly different male voice, cold and hard, cut through the silence. Shit, there are people inside. Boys, break it down. Maya's face went white. It's a trap. The air filled with the jeers and curses of 7 or 8 men, followed by the heavy, rhythmic thud of something ramming the door. Our hastily reinforced entrance wouldn't last long. What do we do, Kira? Maya panicked. Kira's expression was grim. She gripped her axe, ready for a desperate fight. I tugged on Maya's sleeve and whispered, "Remember the wholesale club?" Maya blinked. I pointed to a small ventilation hatch near the back of the warehouse, then pointed to myself. "I'll go out and lead them away." "Are you crazy?" Maya shot back. "You'll be killed. Trust me." I gave her my best I got this look. My luck has always been good. Kira was watching me, her eyes a storm of conflict and suspicion. Finally, she nodded. "Be safe." I scrambled out through the vent. The air outside was so cold it felt like a physical blow. By the warehouse entrance, 7 or 8 burly guys were using a thick log as a battering ram. A man with a scar across his face stood off to the side, a cigarette dangling from his lips as he smirked. I recognized him. He was Riker's second-in-command from a store. Looks like they were here for revenge. I quietly circled around behind them, picked up a rock, and chucked it at a distant abandoned guard booth. Clang! The sharp sound was deafening in the silence of the snow-covered landscape. "Who's there?" the scar-faced man barked, instantly on alert. Everyone froze, turning toward the noise. I seized the opportunity and unleashed my zombie whisper. My command was simple: surround them. Leave no one alive. I didn't summon zombies from far away. Instead, I awakened the ones right here, those frozen under snowdrifts, buried in rubble, the ones lying dormant. The next second, all hell broke loose. From the snow at the men's feet, rotting hands shot out and grabbed their ankles. What the hell is this? Help! There's zombies in the snow. Screams erupted. One by one, stiff, frozen zombies pulled themselves out of the snow, from behind debris, and out of dark corners. They formed a circle, slowly closing in on the trapped men. Scarface and his crew were utterly terrified. They tried to run, but with their legs held fast, they were sitting ducks. They swung their weapons, but the zombies were too many, an endless, rising tide of the dead. I watched the one-sided slaughter from the shadows. This was the power of a LV. 2. Zombie whisper. It couldn't just control, it could awaken. Soon the screams died out. I brushed the snow off my hands and turned to head back. As I did, I found myself looking straight into a pair of ice-cold eyes. Kira. She must have come out the vent at some point. She was standing not far behind me. What did she get here? How much did she see? My heart dropped. Well, shit. I think I overplayed my hand. 6. Kira and I stared at each other, the air between us seeming to freeze solid. The wind whipped past, stinging my face with tiny ice crystals. She just watched me, her expression no longer filled with suspicion or curiosity, but with a complex emotion I couldn't decipher. Well, so much for the Lucky Charm Act. That cover was blown. How was I going to explain this? Tell her I was a druid, a friend to all nature, even the undead kind? Or a necromancer who had just summoned his minions? She finally spoke, her voice a little hoarse. "What are you?" I opened my mouth, my mind racing to invent a plausible lie. "Never mind." She cut me off abruptly, turning away. "Let's go back inside. It's cold." I blinked. "That's it?" She's not going to ask. Baffled, I followed her back through the vent. Maya rushed over the moment we were inside. "Kira, Leo, are you guys okay? What happened to the noise outside?" "It's been handled," Kira said flatly. "Handled? How?" Maya asked, incredulous. Kira glanced at me, then said to her sister, "It was Leo's luck." She was still trying to maintain my crumbling Lucky Charm facade for me. That made me even more uneasy. What was this woman playing at? Though Maya was full of questions, seeing us both back safely, she didn't press the issue. That night, the mood was strange. Maya, probably feeling we deserved a good meal after the battle, seared up 2 extra slices of Spam. She handed the biggest one to me. "Leo, we owe you one today. I don't know how you did it, but you were amazing." I accepted it with a dry laugh. I snuck a look at Kira. She was the same as always, eating quietly, her face an emotionless mask, but she was eating slower than usual. After dinner, Maya fell asleep quickly. It was just me and Kira left awake, with a crackling campfire between us. "Come here," she said suddenly. My gut clenched. I shuffled over to her side. "Sit." I sat cross-legged. She pulled a small first aid kit from her pack, then took my hand. Her touch was cold, but her movements were gentle. Only then did I notice the gash on my palm from climbing through the vent, the blood already dried and crusted over. She took out a cotton swab and antiseptic to clean the wound. The moment the liquid touched the cut, I flinched from the sting. "Hold still," she murmured. I didn't dare move, let her tend to it. The firelight danced across her face, softening the hard lines of her features. "Leo Hayes," she began, her voice low as she wrapped my hand in gauze. "I don't care who you are, and I don't care what secrets you have." I looked up at her. "I only know that you've saved us twice." Her voice was quiet, but every word landed like a hammer blow on my heart. "From now on, you're not deadweight, and you're not a mascot." She lifted her gaze to meet mine, her eyes burning with intensity. "You're our partner." I was stunned. Partner? The only time I'd ever heard that word in my past life was when I was playing video games with my online buddies. So, she finished tying the bandage and released my hand. "Don't go running off on your own again. We're partners. We face the danger together." I looked down at my neatly bandaged hand, a swirl of emotions in my chest. Being trusted. It felt pretty good, actually. "Okay," I nodded. She seemed to smile, but it was so fleeting I thought I'd imagined it. "Get some sleep," she said, then leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. I went back to my corner, but couldn't fall asleep. My mind was a mess. This Ice Queen. Maybe she wasn't so cold after all. Ping. Host extreme emotional fluctuation detected. Mental energy has slightly increased. The system's prompt brought me back to reality. I placed a hand over my heart. It was beating a little fast. It seems that while lying down is great, standing up once in a while felt surprisingly novel. 7 after the partner declaration, my quality of life improved yet again. Maya no longer treated me like a fragile piece of porcelain and started trying to teach me some self-defense. Like how to swing a crowbar with minimal effort. I learned with all the enthusiasm of a sloth, swinging the crowbar like I was performing some kind of bizarre avant-garde dance. Maya would roll her eyes in frustration, but stopped insulting me, just sighing with the exasperation of someone trying to teach a cat to fetch. Kira, on the other hand, gave me a small handgun and 2 clips of ammunition. "Just in case," she said. I weighed the gun in my hand. The cold, heavy metal felt reassuring. Zombie Whisper was great, but against the living, this was a much better tool. We stayed in the warehouse for a few more days until we had scavenged the surrounding area clean. "We have to move," Kira announced one day, spreading out the map. "This place isn't safe. Sooner or later, more people will come looking for trouble." "Where to?" Maya asked. Kira's finger traced a path across the map, finally stopping on one location. "Here, the Northern Spring Geothermal Heating Substation downtown." "A heating station?" "Exactly," Kira said. "Right before the outbreak, the city finished upgrading its underground heating grid. This substation is the central hub. It's 100 feet underground, heavily fortified, and it has central heating." Central heating. At those words, my eyes lit up. In a world frozen at 60 below, a warm shelter was more valuable than gold. "But downtown is the most densely packed area for zombies," Maya said, her voice laced with worry. "Which is why we have to be smart about it," Kira said, glancing at me. I knew immediately that my luck was about to be called upon again. We worked out a simple plan. I would be responsible for drawing away the bulk of the zombies, creating an opening for the sisters to slip into the substation. Before we left, Maya clapped me on the shoulder, her expression grave. "Leo, this is all on you. If you make it back alive, I'll give you half of my last pack of spicy ramen." I replied, "Can I have a can of beef stew instead?" The plan went off without a hitch. I stood on the roof of a skyscraper, looking down at the black tide of the undead below. My LV-2 Zombie Whisper allowed for much finer control. I was like a conductor leading a grotesque orchestra, moving the horde of shambling corpses with precision. One group was sent to swarm the abandoned department store to the east. Another was directed to assault the police station to the west. A small, third group was told to just walk in circles, performing some kind of undead performance art. Downtown quickly descended into chaos, but the path to the heating substation was cleared into a relatively safe corridor. I radioed Kira and Maya. "Corridor is clear. You're good to go." "Over." Received. "Be careful." "Over." Kira's calm voice came back through the static. I sat on the rooftop, the cold wind whipping around me, feeling a bit like a criminal mastermind. A mastermind who was getting a massive headache. Directing several thousand zombies at once was a huge drain on my mental energy. My head was buzzing like I just pulled 7 all-nighters in a row. This confirmed it. Slacking off was the true path to enlightenment. This kind of hard work should only be done in emergencies. Just as I was about to find a spot to rest, something caught my eye. In an alley near the substation entrance, a black, military-style Humvee was parked. It was pockmarked with bullet holes, but otherwise intact. A military vehicle? A knot of unease formed in my stomach. I focused my mind, extending my perception towards it. There were 3 people inside, all wearing heavy, winter-issue combat gear. They were well-equipped. Not your average survivors. Soldiers? Or some other organization? What were they doing here? Were they after the substation too? I immediately got on the radio. Kira, change of plans. You've got an ambush at the entrance. 3 hostiles, heavy gear. Silence. A few seconds later, Kira's urgent voice crackled through. We're already inside. They locked the main gate from their end. We're trapped in the ventilation system. My blood ran cold. It was a trap. This crew had gotten here first and taken control. They were waiting for someone to walk into their parlor. Don't panic. I forced myself to stay calm. Give me your exact location. I'll figure something out. 8 inside the ventilation shaft. It was pitch black. Maya was so nervous her palms were sweating, making the flames in her hands flicker unsteadily. Kira, what do we do? Are we going to die in here? Kira didn't speak. She leaned against the cold metal wall, listening intently to the sounds outside. Leo's steady voice on the radio had calmed her frayed nerves, just a little. We're in vent shaft 3, above the main control room. About 15 feet off the floor, Kira whispered into the radio. How many people in the control room? Leo asked. 3. They're on the computers. Looks like they're downloading data. Can you see what they look like? Kira peered through the vent grate. All 3 were wearing identical black combat uniforms and tactical masks, their faces obscured. But one of them had a patch on his arm, the head of a wolf. One of them has a wolf's head patch on his arm. The radio went silent. Just as Kira thought she'd lost the signal, Leo's voice returned, heavy and serious. It's Black Wolf. Black Wolf. Maya couldn't help but ask. A mercenary outfit. They were notorious before the world went to hell, took any dirty job for the right price. I can't believe they're here, Leo explained. Kira's heart sank. Mercenaries. That meant they were highly trained, ruthless killers. The 2 of them stood no chance in a direct confrontation. Leo, you need to get out of here. Don't worry about us, Kira said, gritting her teeth. What kind of nonsense is that? Leo's voice shot back, annoyed. I said we were partners. I'm not leaving you behind. Stay put. Don't make a sound. I'm on my way. The radio went dead. Kira leaned back against the duct, her mind in turmoil. She had no idea how Leo was going to get here, let alone save them. All she knew was that this guy, who was usually too lazy to even walk, always seemed to pull off a miracle when it mattered most. But this time, they were up against mercenaries. Could a miracle happen again? I cut the comms, my face grim. Black Wolf Mercs. I'd heard of them in my past life. A pack of psychos who would do anything for a profit. Their presence at the substation meant they weren't just looking for a warm place to crash. The underground grid connected the entire city, even leading to the military base on the outskirts. The data they were downloading was probably classified. I couldn't let them get it. More importantly, I couldn't let anything happen to Kira and Maya. I took a deep breath, focusing all of my mental energy. Zombie Whisper activated again. This time, my commands were more complex. All mid-level zombies, advance on the heating substation immediately. Objective, eliminate all living targets. All low-level zombies, create a diversion around the substation perimeter. The bigger, the better. The moment the commands were issued, every zombie in the downtown core went berserk. Thousands upon thousands of them surged like a black tide from every direction, converging on the substation. The streets below were instantly flooded. They roared and clawed, and the entire world seemed to shake with their fury. I watched the apocalyptic scene unfold without an ounce of satisfaction. I knew that these common zombies would have limited effect against trained mercenaries. I needed a surprise. My gaze shifted to the tallest structure in the distance, the Frostfall broadcast tower. I could feel it. There was something different there. A powerful, terrifying presence. A high-level zombie. It had been roosting there, the undisputed king of this territory. My previous uses of Zombie Whisper had deliberately avoided it. I knew that at LV2, I stood no chance of commanding it. But now I had no choice. I had to take a gamble. I mustered every last shred of my mental strength and sent the most powerful psychic blast I had ever attempted toward the tower. I didn't issue a command. I sent a pure, raw concept, a challenge. A weak, insignificant creature challenging a mighty king. It was suicide, but I was betting on its royal pride. A king would never tolerate an ant acting up in his domain. The instant the psychic blast left my mind, I felt a sledgehammer slam into my skull. My vision went black, and I almost collapsed. Did it work? I forced myself to stay upright, my eyes locked on the tower. A few seconds passed. Roar. A roar unlike any other zombies. A sound filled with rage and absolute authority erupted from the top of the tower. It was a sound that could tear a person's soul apart. Then a massive figure leaped from the top. It was over 10 feet tall, its body covered in bone-like armor plates. Its eyes, two burning red coals, glowed in the dim light. It was a tyrant. In my last life, it was this type of monster that brought down the last major human strongholds. It landed with a deafening crash that made the ground tremble. It ignored all the other zombies around it, its crimson eyes locking onto the substation's location with pinpoint accuracy. Then it began to run. Every one of its steps was a minor earthquake. Any zombie in its path was obliterated by its sheer force. I watched its unstoppable advance, wiping the cold sweat from my forehead. Maybe I'd gone a little too far this time. 9 inside the control room. The 3 Black Wolf mercenaries were startled by the commotion outside. "Boss, what the hell is going on? It sounds like the whole world is ending out there," a lanky merc said, his scalp crawling as he watched the monitor, which was now just a sea of zombies. The man called Boss was the one with the wolf patch. He frowned, his eyes glued to the screen. "Something's wrong. They're too organized. Their target is right here." "You think it's those 2 women?" another shorter merc asked. "Impossible," the boss shot back. "They're just 2 espers. They don't have this kind of power. It has to be another faction." He barely got the words out before the control room's heavy alloy door let out a deafening, earth-shattering boom. Boom! A massive dent appeared in the door. The 3 men's faces paled. This door could withstand a rocket launcher. What in God's name could do that in a single hit? Boom! Another titanic impact. The dent deepened, and spiderweb cracks appeared across the alloy surface. "Hold it! Hold the door!" the boss roared, throwing his weight against it along with his men. But the overwhelming, tidal wave of force was more than any human could resist. Crash! The entire door was torn from its hinges and sent flying across the room, slamming into the far wall. A colossal figure stood silhouetted in the doorway. The tyrant. Its blood-red eyes scanned the room, finally settling on the 3 trembling mercenaries. "Open fire! Open fire!" the boss yelled, the first to react. He raised his assault rifle and unleashed a full clip. The bullets sparked against the tyrant's bone armor, not leaving so much as a scratch. Enraged, the tyrant let out a guttural roar and swiped its massive claws at the boss. He tried to dodge, but the creature was impossibly fast. He managed only a single choke scream before the tyrant seized him, crushing him in its grip like a tomato, squeezing him into a paste of gore and gristle. The remaining 2 mercs were scared out of their wits. They turned to flee through the hole in the wall, but the tyrant was on them in 2 strides. One was stomped into a red smear on the floor. The other was torn screaming in half. From the ventilation shaft, Kira and Maya witnessed the entire bloody, shocking spectacle, too terrified to even breathe. They couldn't fathom it. The mercenaries who had trapped them so easily had just been annihilated in seconds by a monster that appeared out of nowhere. After dealing with the 3 humans, the tyrant seemed unsatisfied. Its crimson eyes swept the room, searching for something. Finally, its gaze fell upon the ventilation grate where Kira and Maya were hiding. Maya's heart stopped. "It sees us." The tyrant took a step, then another, moving toward the vent. The sheer pressure of its presence was suffocating. Kira gripped her axe, shielding Maya behind her, preparing for a final, hopeless stand. She knew it was futile. Just as the tyrant raised its claws to rip the grate from the wall, a lazy voice drifted from the other entrance to the control room. "Hey, big guy, looking for me?" The tyrant froze. Kira and Maya froze. They looked toward the voice and saw Leo, leaning casually against the doorframe, watching the tyrant with a nonchalant air of someone observing a lost gorilla at the zoo. "Where did he get in here?" The tyrant slowly turned its massive head, its red eyes locking onto Leo. It could sense that this tiny human was the one who had challenged it. "Brag!" it bellowed and charged. "Leo, look out!" Maya screamed. But Leo didn't move. He didn't even flinch. He just gave a small yawn. As the tyrant's claws were about to make contact, he raised a hand and, in front of the monster's face, casually flicked his finger. Something impossible happened. The unstoppable tyrant, moving like a freight train, slammed on the brakes. Its immense body came to a dead stop less than an inch from Leo's face, as if it had hit an invisible wall. The entire control room fell into a deathly silence. In the vent, Kira and Maya's jaws were hanging open wide enough to catch flies. What did they just see? Leo flicked his finger and that monster just stopped. Leo ignored their shock. He walked right up to the tyrant, tilting his head back to look at the behemoth. "You look pretty scary," he remarked with a shrug. "But you're not too bright, are you?" With that, he reached out and patted the tyrant's massive thigh like it was a disobedient dog. "All right, show's over. Your buddies are still partying outside. Go on, go play." The tyrant's red eyes seemed to flash with a mix of fear and defiance. But in the end, it obeyed. It turned and, with heavy, thudding steps, walked out of the control room. Leo watched it go, letting out a quiet breath of relief. That little flick of his finger hadn't been so simple. He had poured every ounce of his mental energy into a single, simple, and absolute command. Submit. He'd won the bet. The king of this territory had just bowed its head to the new king. He turned back toward the ventilation shaft, a familiar, lazy smile on his face. "Hey, ladies, need a hand?" Kira, Maya, and I finally had our victorious reunion in the control room of the heating substation. The atmosphere was a little awkward, especially Maya. She was staring at me like I just stepped out of a UFO. You, she stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. I walked over to the main console and casually tapped a few keys. "Enough with the use. Get down from there before you suffocate." Kira recovered first. She found a maintenance hatch and helped a still-dazed Maya climb down from the ventilation system. The moment her feet touched the ground, Maya rushed over, grabbing my arm and looking me up and down. "Leo, what kind of god are you? You flicked your finger. And that giant monster." "Standard procedure. No big deal," I said, trying to sound cool. In reality, my legs were about to give out. That last move had completely drained me. I was running on fumes and sheer willpower. Kira wasn't as excitable as Maya. She just watched me quietly, her expression more complex than I had ever seen it. "You're an Esper?" she asked. An Esper was the common term for people with abilities. "Something like that," I answered vaguely. My powers came from a system. I had no idea if that qualified. Maya's eyes lit up like Christmas lights. "Whoa, control zombies. Doesn't that make you the zombie king?" The thought resonated with me. Zombie king had a nice ring to it. "Let's keep that on the down low," I said, waving a hand dismissively. Kira watched me for a long time before speaking, her voice slow and deliberate. "Thank you, Leo." It was the first time she had ever said thank you with such gravity. "Don't mention it. We're partners, right?" I grinned, trying to look relaxed, but my legs buckled. Kira's reflexes were sharp. She caught me before I hit the floor. Her hand on my arm was steady and strong. "You're exhausted?" she asked. "Nah, just low blood sugar," I lied. She didn't say anything else, just helped me over to a chair and sat me down. Then she pulled the last energy bar from her pack and pressed it into my hand. Maya rushed over too, starting to massage my shoulders with an almost comical level of diligence. "Leo, you must be tired. Let me get that for you. From now on, you're my big brother." I basked in the royal treatment, feeling incredibly smug. Turns out, coming clean had its perks. We rested in the control room for a while as Kira started going through the data on the mercenaries' computers. They were downloading a file. It's called the ARC Project. Kira's brow was furrowed in concentration. ARC Project? Yeah, looks like a top-secret military program. Most of it is encrypted, but from the fragments I can piece together, it seems to be related to a serum. One that can cure the zombie virus. A cure for the virus. Maya and I were both stunned. If something like that really existed, it meant there was hope for ending the apocalypse. "What about the file?" I asked urgently. The download was interrupted when the tyrant attacked. "The data is corrupted and unrecoverable." Kira shook her head with a hint of regret. I, however, breathed a sigh of relief. "Are you kidding me? If the apocalypse ended and all the zombies were gone, how could I, the zombie king, continue my perfect life of leisure? My golden age was just beginning. I couldn't let anyone develop some stupid cure." "Yeah, it was probably a long shot anyway," I said, feigning nonchalance. "The most important thing right now is turning this place into our new, cozy home." Maya nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, it's got heat and power and all these rooms. We've hit the jackpot." Kira nodded too, shutting down the computer. "It's secure, and the supplies should last us a long time. We can settle here for now." The three of us, in the middle of this frozen, apocalyptic city, finally had a place to truly call home. And it was a luxury penthouse, complete with central heating and 24/7 hot water. I collapsed onto a soft sofa, soaking in the blissful warmth, and almost moaned with pleasure. This was the life I was meant to live. 11 after we settled into the heating substation, my grand plan of doing absolutely nothing kicked into high gear. This underground fortress was a slice of heaven in a world of hell. It had power, a local network, heating, and an entire storm of canned goods and emergency rations. Kira was a woman of action. She quickly mapped out our new home. The control room became our living room, adjacent offices became our bedrooms, and she converted one storage area into a gym. Every single day, she was in there, either working out or studying the tactical manuals the mercenaries had left behind. Maya, meanwhile, became addicted to the offline single-player games on the local network. She played constantly, her joyous shouts and frustrated groans echoing through the halls. Occasionally, Kira would drag her into the gym for sparring practice, which resulted in Maya's shrieks of protest being added to the daily soundtrack. And me? My job was to lie on the sofa and be a quiet, handsome decoration. My zombie whisper had leveled up to LV. 3. Zombie whisper LV. 3. Control radius expanded to 1 kilometer. Can now issue commands to high-level zombies, e.g. tyrants. Can now initiate psychic link to share a zombie's vision. This new feature was a game-changer. I could lie on the sofa every day with my eyes closed and monitor the entire city through thousands of mobile cameras. I knew where every survivor was, where supplies were hidden, and where danger lurked. It felt like playing a hyper-realistic strategy game where I was the only player with the map hacks turned on. One day, I was on my usual couch patrol when I saw a new group of people. There were about a dozen of them, well-equipped and moving in a disciplined formation, heading straight for our substation. Leading them was a man in a white lab coat and gold-rimmed glasses. He looked like a mild-mannered academic, but his eyes held a glint of madness. He was flanked by several espers who radiated power. My stomach dropped. Judging by their professional demeanor, they weren't here for a friendly visit. I immediately broke the psychic link and sat up. What is it? Kira, who was reading a manual, noticed my sudden change in posture. We've got company, I said gravely. Maya looked up from her game. Who? I don't know, but they're not here to sell cookies. I walked to the control console and pulled up the feed from the entrance camera. On the screen, the group had already arrived. It's the Ark. Kira's face hardened as she recognized the man in glasses. The Ark, a survivor organization made up of scientists, Kira explained. Their leader is the man with the glasses, Dr. Thorne. He's a maniac, a geneticist. After the outbreak, he started capturing espers and special infected for his twisted human experiments. Something clicked in my mind, the Ark Project. It seemed the Black Wolf mercenaries had been working for this Dr. Eris Thorne. They were here for the corrupted data. How many of them are there? I asked. About 5 core members, all powerful espers. The rest are just regular survivors he's brainwashed, Kira said. They can't get in, right? Our door is solid, Maya said. As if on cue, a bald, heavily muscled man on the monitor stepped forward. He took a deep breath, his biceps bulging, and slammed his fist into the substation's main gate. Boom! The sound was as loud as the tyrant's blow. Our reinforced alloy door, our pride and joy, shuddered violently. That's Gage, the fist. Kira's face grew even paler. He's a strength-based esper. They say he can punch through 3 feet of solid steel. Holy crap, he's that strong. Maya gasped. Boom! Boom! Gage's fists rained down on the door like sledgehammers. The metal began to warp and groan, protesting under the relentless assault. It won't hold for long, Kira said decisively. Maya, get to the backup generator and activate the defensive grid. Leo, she looked at me, a question in her eyes. I knew what she was thinking. She was asking if I could summon the tyrant again. I shook my head. There's not enough time. Besides, they came prepared. Even the tyrant might not be enough.